I didn't move to Los Angeles for ghosts. When my roommate Mia and I signed the lease for our little two-bedroom apartment in Koreatown, we thought we'd finally caught a break. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. Faded hardwood floors, a washing machine wedged into a closet, and just enough space for our mismatched furniture. It started the second week after moving in. I was doing laundry, pulling damp clothes from the washer, when I heard the soft clink of metal against the drum. At the bottom was a small silver pendant of the Virgin Mary. It didn't belong to me. Mia swore she'd never seen it before. We tossed it in the junk drawer and forgot about it. Then the dryer door began opening on its own. Always at night, always slow, like someone easing it open just to watch. We told ourselves it was just a faulty latch. But then, the washer began filling with water when no one was using it. I'd walk by and hear the rush of water in the pipes, see the basin slowly rising. A month later, the TV in the living room began turning on and off at random. The night that changed everything, I was lying in bed, drifting off. My small Roku TV flicked on. Irritated, I shouted into the dark, "If you think this is funny, do it again." I didn't even finish the sentence before the screen lit up a second time. Then came the bang, sharp and hollow, from the wall behind my bed. The wall that backed onto our empty spare room. My heart thudded in my chest. I told myself maybe a neighbor had bumped their wall. Maybe their remote signal was crossing over. Still, Mia and I dragged blankets to the living room to sleep together. Somewhere in the middle of the night, I woke up. A figure stood in the corner. The nightlight behind it traced the outline of a person. Shoulders, head, the stillness of someone watching. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. Mia stirred, muttered something, and got up. She walked toward the corner, straight toward the thing, and yanked the nightlight from the wall, complaining it was too bright. I wanted to scream at her to stop. Mia told me her own story a few nights later. She has the master bedroom with a private bath. One night, she was in bed reading with her cat curled up next to her. I'd even gotten a Snapchat of the two of them together. Before sleeping, she went to the bathroom. That's when her bedroom door rattled violently, as if someone was trying to break in. She grabbed the baseball bat she keeps by the bed, shoved her box fan aside, and unlocked the door. Her cat sat in the hallway, staring up at her. There was no way it could have gotten out. She'd left it in bed not 5 minutes earlier. The apartment began to feel hostile. Every night the knocks returned, always on my wall. Objects began hitting my bedroom door, loud, heavy thuds. Then I started finding wine corks scattered outside my door. Neither of us drank wine. One Friday, I came home late from Echo Park. The apartment was dark and quiet. Mia's keys weren't on the hook. Her room was still. No fan humming. I turned out the living room light and got into bed. The pump for the spare room's air mattress roared to life. Footsteps followed, slow, measured, just outside my door. A narrow beam of light swept back and forth under the crack, like someone searching with a flashlight. My breath caught. My phone was in my hand, thumb hovering over 911. Then a slow, deep exhale. Silence. I opened my door. The hallway was empty. The spare room was still. Then the living room TV burst to life, blaring an eerie, droning soundtrack with no picture. My pulse roared in my ears as I yanked the plug from the wall. The next morning, Netflix's home screen displayed Unsolved Mysteries. Episode 3, House of Terror. The theme music was exactly what I'd heard. The following night, we decided to sleep in the spare room. The knocking came first, then the music, low, distorted. We searched every corner, every chord, every speaker. Nothing was on. We climbed back into bed, whispering in the dark, when a little girl's voice drifted from the living room. It echoed as though piped through a speaker, but it was the only voice. The words were too muffled to make out at first, until, clear as glass, she asked, "Are you afraid of the dark?" Neither of us moved. It began touching us after that. I was lying on an air mattress in Mia's room when something dropped onto my chest. A hair tie. The problem was, there weren't any hair ties in the bed. Then something yanked my foot hard enough to pull me half awake in panic. I hung a crucifix above my bedroom door. I bought anointing oil from the Holy Land gift shop on Vermont Avenue. I saged the apartment until the smoke made my eyes sting, salted every corner, and prayed like I hadn't prayed since I was a kid. For a few days, the silence felt like victory. Then it burned me. I was sitting on my bed, scrolling on my phone, when a sharp pain stabbed into my back, searing like the end of a lit cigarette pressed into my skin. I tore off my shirt, thinking a spider had bitten me, but the mirror showed nothing, until the scratches appeared. 3 of them. Long, angry red. I stared as they welted up before my eyes. Now the apartment feels like it's breathing. The air is always heavy, as if something is standing just behind me. I hear footsteps when I'm alone. Shadows shift in doorways when I pass. I have the crucifix, the salt, the prayers, but deep down I know it's not enough. Because this thing, it doesn't just want to scare me. It's waiting, and I don't know for what. I'm starting to think the Virgin Mary pendant wasn't left behind by accident. I think whoever lived here before us tried to protect themselves, and failed. This was supposed to be my fresh start in LA. Now I sleep with the lights on, I flinch when my phone vibrates, and I keep the baseball bat Mia used against her shaking bedroom door right next to me. The other night, I dreamt I woke up and it was standing at the foot of my bed. Only when I actually woke up, my feet were ice cold as if something had been holding them. If you're reading this and you've ever dealt with something like this, something you can't see, can't stop, tell me what to do, because I think it's getting stronger and it's not going away. Some places feel heavy before you even step inside. My best friend lives in a part of England that carries scars from the Blitz. German bombs fell here in the 1940s, tearing through streets and homes. Her house itself was built in 1918, just after the First World War ended. And it's seen more than a century of history, most of it silent, some of it violent. In her back garden sits the remains of an old shed, half collapsed, its roof torn away decades ago when a bomb struck nearby. The wood is blackened, splintered, like something that should have been cleared away long ago, but was left to rot as a reminder. I always felt unsettled there, though I never said it out loud. One chilly Saturday afternoon, a group of us were hanging out in the park near her house. The air smelled faintly of damp earth and exhaust fumes from the road beyond. Kids laughed somewhere in the distance, but we stayed near the far side of the park, where the swings squeaked and the grass grew patchy. That's when I saw it. On the other side of the rusting fence stood an abandoned building, once a nursery, I was told. Its windows were cracked, blinds drawn halfway as if frozen mid-motion. In one of those darkened windows, something moved. At first I thought it was a trick of the light, but the longer I stared, the more certain I became. A figure stood there, tall, still. It was watching us. The others saw it too. We all stopped talking, glancing between each other to confirm we weren't imagining it. The figure didn't move for a long time, just stared. Then slowly it raised its hands. I know sign language. The movement wasn't random, it was deliberate. The figure was signing 2 words. Get. Outside. The air felt suddenly colder, pressing against my skin. I didn't even speak. I just turned and walked away, my friends close behind. None of us wanted to be near that window any longer. We didn't go back to that part of the park again, but the figure wasn't done with us. A week later, I saw it again, at school. My school is old. Parts of it have been renovated, but there are wings so unused and untouched that even the principal hasn't been inside for months. Paint flakes from the walls there. The floorboards sag when you step on them, and the smell of dust is so thick it coats your tongue. I'd gone to the loo between classes when the lights flicked off. At first, I thought it was the motion sensor. I waved my arms. Nothing. Then the sink turned on. The water gushed, echoing off the tiled walls. I was alone. The door hadn't opened. No one had walked past. The light came back on by itself. The water stopped. It didn't happen just once. Over the next few weeks, it became routine. The lights would die the second I stepped inside. The taps would turn on without anyone touching them. I'd hear the faint creak of a stall door opening, but when I checked, everyone was empty, and sometimes I'd catch movement out of the corner of my eye, just beyond the doorway. Always tall, always still. One day after school, I stayed late for a project. The building was mostly empty, only the sound of muffled voices in the staff room down the hall. I went to grab my coat from my locker. That's when I heard footsteps. slow, deliberate, coming from the direction of the abandoned wing. I told myself it was a teacher, but when I turned, I saw him, the same dark figure from the nursery window, standing at the end of the hall, motionless. He didn't come closer, didn't make a sound, but his hands moved again, slow and deliberate. Get out. I slammed my locker shut and ran. I didn't stop until I was outside, gasping cold air into my lungs. I've tried to research what I saw, what he could be. I've read about wartime spirits, the ghosts of those who died in the Blitz, restless because they never got the chance to leave the earth in peace. Some stories talk about shadow people who follow you once they've marked you, appearing first at the place they died, then in other places you go. I can't be sure. What I do know is this. Once you've seen it, it doesn't stay in one place. The shed in my best friend's garden still leans crooked, a skeleton of charred wood against the gray sky. The old nursery still stands at the edge of the park, its windows dark. And that abandoned wing of my school still waits, untouched. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if we hadn't listened to the figure that first day, if we'd stayed, if we'd gone inside. A part of me wants to believe the figure was warning us, that the words, "get out," were meant to protect us from something worse. But another part wonders if it was just the beginning, because I still see movement in my peripheral vision when I'm walking home at night. I still hear footsteps when I'm alone in the school corridors, and when I catch sight of my reflection in a dark window. Sometimes, there's someone standing behind me. When I was 12, just a year ago now, I thought the scariest thing in life was failing a math test or losing a match in Call of Duty. Black Ops 2. I didn't know how wrong I was. Back then, my closest friends were Matthew and Jordan. We sat together in class, shared dumb jokes, and thought we were way cooler than we actually were. One afternoon after school, we were messing around on a dating app. Yeah, stupid, I know. It started as a joke. Somehow I actually got a match. She sent a short message, nothing weird, and I told her to meet me at the park near my house. The park was empty when I got there. It was a cold evening, the kind where the swings barely creak in the wind, and the street lights cast more shadow than light. I waited and waited. An hour passed. No one came. By then, the sky was completely black, the park was silent, and I felt like an idiot. I headed home. I hopped on Black Ops 2 as soon as I got back, my favorite game at the time, and played until my eyes felt heavy. When I finally checked the time, it was 2:38 in the morning, a school night. I was about to shut down my Xbox when I heard it, 3 sharp taps on my bedroom window. At first, I thought it was a branch or maybe my brother messing with me. But when I looked, my stomach dropped. A man dressed in all black was sprinting, full speed, across my yard toward the fence. By the time I reached the window latch, he was gone. The next morning, I told Jordan. He frowned, said it was weird, but neither of us really knew what to make of it. After school that day, I went to Jordan's house for a bit, trying to shake off the weird feeling. When I got home around 5:30, I froze. On my porch was a pile of human shit. I know how insane that sounds, but it was there. Fresh, disgusting, deliberate. I gagged and backed away. We called the police. They came, took a look, and basically shrugged. If he's not on your property when we get here, there's nothing we can do. I couldn't believe it. That night, my older brother Sam, he was 14 then, offered to stay up and keep watch if I paid him. I agreed. The next morning, Sam told me nothing happened. The guy hadn't shown. I tried to convince myself maybe it was over. 2 days later, I got home from school before Sam, like usual. My bus route was shorter. I was always the second person to get off. Sam usually rolled in about half an hour later. When I reached the front door, something fluttered in the wind. A note. It was taped right in the middle of the door, the words scrawled in thick black marker. "I love you, Josh." The hair on the back of my neck stood straight up. Whoever this was, they knew my name. I showed my dad as soon as he got home. His face went pale. He didn't bother with the police this time. He took a personal day from work and stayed up all night with his hunting rifle. Meanwhile, I kept my airsoft gun close. I knew it wouldn't help much, but it made me feel like I had something. That night, my dad sat at the coffee table by the front window, rifle resting across his lap, eyes fixed outside. The house was silent except for the occasional creak of the floorboards or the distant hum of a passing car. I barely slept. The next afternoon, I walked in from school and found my dad waiting. His face was tense, his voice low. "I saw him." He told me the guy had appeared across the street sometime after midnight, lingering in the shadows. My dad had stepped outside, rifle in hand. The man had turned, startled, and started running. Dad aimed, fired, barely missed the man's arm. The guy didn't look back. He just kept running until he disappeared into the darkness. That was the last time we saw him. It's been over a year now. I'm 13, turning 14 soon, and life's been normal, mostly, but sometimes late at night, when the wind hits my window just right, I hear those 3 sharp taps again in my head, and I wonder if one day I'll look outside and see him there, waiting. I've thought a lot about what happened, whether it was connected to that fake date I tried to set up, whether he knew me before. The police never identified him. No one in the neighborhood admitted to seeing anyone suspicious. Part of me hopes he was just some messed up stranger passing through, that my dad scared him off for good. But another part of me wonders if he's still out there, watching someone else now. I'm more careful these days. I don't mess with strangers online. I keep my curtains closed at night. I double-check the locks. And sometimes when I'm walking home from school and the wind is cold and the streets are quiet, I catch myself glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see a man in black standing just far enough away that I can't quite make out his face. Because you never really forget the feeling of being watched, and you never know when the watching will start again.